Yeah, good afternoon. Please take your seat. Let's kick off this session. So, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, welcome to the session 3. This is to make the G2F working at scale and cross-sectorial and institutional collaboration. By now, I guess that I understand that you have been familiar with ADB's forest transformation agenda that is targeting for 40 billion US dollars. And also now, after the 2 sessions in the morning and afternoon, you have more understanding of the G2F. So this session will focus on the discussion on the sector coordination and also institutional coordination to make the GF work on the ground. So we have several speakers. The first of all, we would like to welcome DG Gurines to give us opening remarks on the session. So DG, please.
Hi, are we being live streamed? No, just here. Okay, in which case, I would say, distinguished guests, colleagues and partners, good afternoon, and welcome to this 3rd session of G2F, making G2F work at scale, cross-sectoral and institutional collaboration. It's a pleasure to have many senior leaders from governments, development partners, UN agencies and knowledge institutions with us today. In the previous sessions, the conceptual foundation of Glaciers to Farmers or G2F approach was explored and reviewed, and then there was also the review of early operational experiences across the region. Together, these discussions captured both the urgency and the opportunities that lie ahead. Now, this particular session brings us to an important stage, turning G2F from a powerful concept into a system that works at scale and delivers resilience for millions of people. Okay, now, in Asia and the Pacific, climate risks cascade across sectors and borders. Upstream glacier loss impacts downstream water availability. Shifts in climate patterns disrupt food production, public health, and energy systems, among others, and the resulting socioeconomic pressures place strain on national budgets and community livelihoods. These are not in any way isolated challenges. They are shared cross-cutting risks, and they require shared joint cross-cutting solutions. And this is actually the very essence of the G2F approach. G2F is not just a project pipeline. It is a regionally coherent system for adaptive learning, institutional coordination, and long-term investment in climate-resilient food systems. Scaling such a system requires the commitment, capacities, and cooperation of the institutions. Now, as a regional development bank and climate finance mobilizer, ADB is uniquely placed to 1, embed glacier and climate risk diagnostics into country partnership strategies, sector roadmaps, and investment planning. Second, we can strengthen upstream analytics, linking climate science to food systems and rural transformation. Third, we can deploy a blend of public sector assistance, including lending, concessional climate finance, and private sector solutions to de-risk adaptation investments. And last but not the least, we can mobilize regional platforms and knowledge networks to enhance cooperation, data sharing, and institutional learning. But all of this need to be anchored in strong coordinated institutions, both nationally and regionally. So, as we begin today's discussion, call to action. I invite each of you to reflect on one question. Starting now, from now, this very second, we ask ourselves the question, what can we all do jointly to make G2F real, operational, and scalable? Not an easy question, but with all of you here, we should be able to tackle that question. And why is that? Why is it that we ask this question? It's because no single country can manage upstream to downstream climate risks alone. No single sector can safeguard food systems against climate extremes. And no single institution, no matter how capable or large, can build resilience at the scale that is required. But all of us together, we can. So, I call on all of us here today and all of our colleagues and counterparts to commit to working beyond traditional boundaries across water, agriculture, climate, finance, health, and disaster risk sectors, among others. I call on us to invest in the governance and coordination systems that make multi-sector actions possible. I call on all of us to share data, share expertise, and lessons through regional platforms. I call on us to mobilize every type of capital, public, private, concessional, and let's not forget, philanthropic, to accelerate adaptation. And last but not the least, all of us to champion G2F within your own institutions as a long-term programmatic approach to climate resilient food systems. Okay, that's a challenge. So with that, I would like to say thank you for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to a rich and forward-looking discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, DG Lea. Thank you for your the call for the actions. As I understand that you have three no's: no single country, no single institution, and no single sector can achieve our targets to scale up the investment needed for the addressing the water, the glacier melting issues. So with that, we will go to the detailed presentations. We have several presentations. I would request all of you, each of you, please keep manage the time because we have several speakers. So if we, I don't want you to run into the late because in the evening we still have events in the evening. So that's very fun. But then this time, let's focus on the technical and on the presentations before we join fun. So the next speaker, I will invite Ms. Kat to give us kind of presentation on the institutional architecture of G2F. So please.
Thank you, Yaojo, and good afternoon again, everyone. The clicker is, okay. Sure. So just very briefly, just reminding everyone, I'm sure many of you are joined us already this morning, but just briefly on G2F. You've heard this many times today already, but just to again refresh your memory, the Glaciers to Farms Regional Program, or G2F, this is a regional program covering 9 countries in Central and West Asia. So that's 5 countries in Central Asia, 3 in South Caucasus, and Pakistan. The main purpose in designing this program is addressing glacial melting, water scarcity, also the increasing vulnerability of the 380 million people in Central and West Asia, as well as the declining productivity of the agriculture system in the region. As earlier mentioned, 3.5 billion US dollars will be mobilized for the implementation of the program, with 250 million approved in October of last year from the Green Climate Fund. So this 250 million US dollars comprise of concessional financing as well as grant financing that will serve as catalytic funds to mobilize broader adaptation and resilience concrete actions in key sectors like agriculture, water, health, and social protection. So for this regional program, this is not just a regular or another ADB regional project, but rather this offers a foundation for adaptation that looks into the link between glacier-fed water system as well as the downstream economic systems that are dependent on these resources. So just to refresh your memory, again, earlier you've heard from Chris on component one that this will be focusing on providing technical assistance. So looking at technical studies, upstream assessment that will further our understanding on the impacts of climate and glacial melting into our respective projects. So looking into how those results will also inform your national adaptation plan, as well as your nationally determined contributions, or the NDCs. Under this component as well, it will be looking into innovative financing mechanisms. So earlier during the panel discussion, you've heard our colleague from the Treasury Department that we have just raised 100 million green bonds for Asia and the Pacific. So more and more modalities like that to also mobilize financing from the private sector we will be trying to unlock under the G2F program. So earlier, you've heard from the second session on the concrete projects that we envision to deliver. For this session, what we have heard are mostly from agriculture and water sectors. But as you know, G2F will also have the human dimension, which will cover health and social protection. So these will basically look into measures that are within the 4 critical watersheds or key transboundary watersheds like Kura, Pianj, Swat, and Narin. For capacity building for climate finance access, as you've heard from Chris, so this will be looking into capacity building technical assistance for our financial institutions, as well as to medium, small-scale enterprises in Central and West Asia. So the reason here is looking in how we can channel more investments at the local level, but first looking into the enabling environment. Because when we were preparing the concept proposal, there are still a lot of challenges and bottlenecks in terms of mobilizing financing through this channel. And for GCF support, it would be good to use those financing in providing catalytic studies that will help unlock these resources, considering that in the region, they already have green taxonomies that can be operationalized, particularly for the sectors of G2F. We have highlighted regional knowledge platform for adaptive learning and climate action, because for this session, this is our focus. This will be focusing more how we can broaden our collaboration as well as our partnership with all of you here present, who will be the main actors in implementing the projects, as well as also calling on our development partners, other the donor community, to also further invest in G2F and to adaptation and resilience measures. So in terms of implementation or operationalization of G2F, this will not be confined to ADB or GCF alone. This will definitely involve a whole of government approach, and it will also be calling on partners, and including philanthropists, as mentioned by DG, in mobilizing climate finance, not just for G2F, but broader adaptation and resilience actions, as well as mobilizing support in operationalizing concrete actions on the ground. As we mentioned earlier, in terms of the sectors that are being focused under the G2F program, these are the sectors that are most vulnerable to climate impacts, but usually needing more attention from the government in terms of investments. Because as we heard from DG Eugene, sometimes when we will be speaking with the government, it's always the energy sector, transport sector that are priority. But definitely, these are all the sectors that we have in under G2F, and your sectors will definitely be needing long-term financing to strengthen resilience to climate change impacts. We've identified there the national designated authorities. So these are ministries of environment, natural resources, and climate change. As you know, since we have received funding from the Green Climate Fund, these agencies are the one coordinating projects for their countries for endorsement to GCF. And considering that this program, this G2F program, covers a number of sectors for a country, it would need coordination in terms of the projects to make sure that all these projects will contribute to your respective nationally determined contributions as well as your national adaptation plans. The second very important ministry would be the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance is the authorized agency in many countries in terms of grant agreements, loan agreements with your countries. So later, as we develop projects with you, as we have discussions with your countries, there will be interventions or there will be projects that will be identified. And the role of Ministry of Finance will be very important on that. Also, since we presented earlier that for Component 2, there is a mechanism, or in Component 1 rather, that there is a priority activity related to improving fiscal planning to make sure that climate risks like physical and transition risks will be captured in your budgeting and also in your development of investment projects. So their role as a catalyst in respective countries would be very critical. The third important ministries or ministry would be the technical line agencies. So these are basically you who are here present in this afternoon's session. So these are ministries of agriculture, ministries of water, ministries of emergency services, also looking into ministries of natural resources. So these are the technical actors in your respective countries that are mandated to develop concrete projects on the sectors that we cover under the G2F program. And these are the agencies that would need to be capacitated in terms of, as we mentioned earlier, integration of risk assessment in the design of the projects, making sure that it will be ready for future climate impacts and other climate projections or risks that will be relevant in the respective country or the sector. And then financial institutions, private sector, we very much echoed the importance of these actors, particularly in making sure that we mobilize resources. We receive 250 from GCF, but with a huge amount of financing required in Central and West Asia, we echoed this earlier, it's 100 billion annually until 2030. With that huge financing gap, financing requirement, we would need more funds to really support adaptation and resilience actions, particularly making sure that we help these investments to beat the risk and ensure that there will be financial viability in its implementation. Bilateral and multilateral financing institutions, including other philanthropy and climate funds, similar to the role of GCF, we need to mobilize more parallel and co-financing for increasing and upscaling investment. CSO, of course, is very important because this provides the local connection. This, given their experience in implementing projects on the ground, their role would be very critical in shaping the projects as well. So this component is just to highlight the elements of this component. This will basically look into the regional knowledge hub, the glacier monitoring and information system, as well as the M&E system, as well as the establishment of regional G2F community practice. So first is the platform, the regional platform. The intention is to highlight best practices, exchange key ideas. So we will be tapping the CAREC platform, or the Central Asia Regional Economic Platform, particularly the water pillar as well as the climate change working groups, because this has been institutionalized and can help identify investment projects, not just useful for the country, but also serving transboundary purposes. And then for the monitoring and evaluation, this is very important. We will be implementing a number of projects and connecting all those projects to make sure it doesn't just meet the requirements of the GCF, but also looks into how it reaches the outcomes, reaching people, as well as the your national priorities for climate. Important aspect would be the development of or establishment of the RGCOP, because this is where we will bring in scientists as well as institutions that are working in the space of glacier monitoring, glacier assessment, to look into some frameworks that we can standardize and upscale in the region. So finally, just some entry points, and just to highlight the importance of G2F in helping mobilize financing and contributing to your national systems. One, we've heard this many times, and it was very good to also see during the presentations that the projects are really contributing to what you have identified in your national adaptation plans as well as your NDCs. So that's really an important one. Second, strengthening institutional coordination. So the program encourages us to move away from silos. So from one asset type of project to more integrated, looking into some examples that we've seen from Georgia earlier, where it incorporates several elements that looks into the holistic identification of solution. Then definitely with the catalytic funding of from G2F, we hope that it can scale more adaptation projects across the different sectors that we've covered or we will be prioritizing under G2F. And then harmonization of standards and improving monitoring and reporting of all the results that we will be doing under the program, and we will also align with all your with all the reporting requirements of your respective climate commitments. We still have lots of things to do. A lot of huge responsibility, but we see that the success of the implementation of G2F will really rest on how we all effectively collaborate across sectors, across boundaries, and across private and public sectors. I'll end there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You make it almost on time, and you highlighted the message. I mean, we keep saying during the past 1 or 2 days that collaboration, and collaboration, very important word. So the next speakers, including 2 representatives from our DMCs. They are talking about their own experience for the cross-sector institutional coordination during their project preparation and implementation. May I please invite the first speaker, Mr. Azumat, from the Uzbekistan, the head of the Department of Attraction of Loans, Grants and Technical Assistance of IFIs and FGFOs, Center for Implementation of Foreign Investment Project in the World Sector. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please accept my sincere gratitude for the invitation and opportunity to speak in this important event organized by the Asian Development Bank. For the Republic of Uzbekistan, water is not a natural resource, it's the foundation of life, food security and rural development. Water management plays a critical role in ensuring the food security and rural livelihood in Uzbekistan. As our colleagues emphasized in the previous session, more than 90% of agriculture production in our country depends on irrigation. While our water resource largely originate from glacier-fed river systems in the upstream regions in Central Asia. Therefore, effective water management is a key priority of national policy. Uzbekistan's main water source are the Amudarya and Sirdarya rivers. Each year, the country uses about 51 billion cubic meters of water, with 80% coming from the external sources and 20% from the internal resources. Around 90% of the water is used for agriculture, while about 4% for the public utilities, 4% for the industry and energy, and the other 2% is the fishing and other needs. The fast growing population economy put increasing pressure on the water resource. At the same time, water resources in Central Asia are increasingly affected by the climate change, including glacier retreat and variability in the river flows. These factors make improving irrigation efficiency and strengthening water management system a critical priority for the ensuring long-term food security. Sorry for this. Let's close this. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, here, as I mentioned, you can see some numbers. It's the main Amudarya, Sirdarya, two resources we have. 80% is external water resource, 20% is internal water resource, and as I mentioned, 90% of agriculture and other numbers. And Minister of Water Resource monitoring all these water reservoirs, irrigation wells, pumping stations, canals, hydraulic structures, and we have all of the objectives. And the ADB partnership. However, like many countries in the region, we are facing serious challenges, including the climate change, increasing water scarcity, and the need to adapt agriculture to new environmental conditions. In this context, Uzbekistan has been working closely with the development partners, including Asian Development Bank, to strengthening climate-resilient water resource management. A number of projects implemented in the recent years provided valuable lessons regarding both the design and implementation of irrigation infrastructure. Uzbekistan has been working closely with the Asian Development Bank and other development partners to modernize irrigation infrastructure, strengthening water resource management. One of the examples is the Amu-Bukhara irrigation system rehabilitation project, which improved the reliability and efficiency of the water delivery in one of the country's largest irrigation system. while also generating significant energy saving that contribute to climate change mitigation. The project rehabilitation key infrastructure and the supported improved water management practices, helping to ensure more sustainable water supply for agriculture in Bukhara, Navai regions in Uzbekistan. Another important initiatives is the climate adaptive water resource management sector project in Central Aral Sea Basin, which integrated climate consideration into water planning and strengthens monitoring and decision support systems and support strategic policy development in the water sector. It's the ongoing project. And now, in addition, projects such as the construction of the Ayak-Jobuzarang multi-purpose reservoirs are currently under preparation for the further modernized irrigation infrastructure and improve the water and food security in our country. During the project preparation and implementation, several design challenges have emerged. First, many irrigation systems in the region were constructed several decades ago and require major rehabilitation and modernization. Aging infrastructure segmentation often compliance engineering design and increased project complexity. The second one, climate uncertainty makes it more difficult to design infrastructure capable to adapting to change water availability. The third one, limited hydraulical data and monitoring system can affect planning and modeling during the project preparation. Finally, irrigation modernization requires close coordination between the multiple institutions, including local and regional authorities, water users, the regional governments, farmers, development partners, etc. Effective institutional arrangements are therefore essential for the successful project implementation. And these experiences demonstrate that infrastructure alone cannot solve the challenge of water management. Equally important are policy institutions, governance mechanisms, and incentives that encourage effective water use. In this regard, Asia Development Bank has supported key policy reforms in the water sector, including the Water Resource Development Concept up to 2030, Water Sector Development Strategy, and the recently adopted Water Code. In Uzbekistan, new reform and strengthening these aspects. In the practical, the Presidential Resolution 51, adopted in February last year, introduced new institutional arrangements aimed at improving project preparation, coordination, and implementation of water sector investments. In the recent years, Uzbekistan has implemented significant reforms in the water sector. Last year, as mentioned above, a new water code of the Republic of Uzbekistan has adopted, providing a strong legal foundation for the rational and sustainable use of water resource. In addition to institutional reforms, Uzbekistan has adopted Water Resource Management Irrigation Sector Development Program. It's 2025-2028. This program was developed with the support of ADB and other partners. The program focuses on modernizing irrigation infrastructure, introducing digital monitoring system, expanding water-saving technologies, developing the financial mechanism, including PPP also. And these reforms transfer water management from the purely administrative function into the more economically efficient and technologically advanced system, where water is recognized as a strategic resource for agriculture development and economic growth. At the same time, we recognize that our success cannot be considered as a solution. As the President of Republic of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, emphasized during the speech of United Nations, water and climate are challenges that cannot be solved by any country alone. Only through joint effort of the states and international institutions can we ensure the sustainable future and food security. Based on this understanding, Uzbekistan attaches great importance to the regional and international cooperation in the water sector. The high value of role of ADB as a platform of bringing together scientific knowledge, innovations, and policy dialogue. Uzbekistan remains open to cooperation and partnership. We are ready to share our experiences, provided opportunities for the pilot projects and practices in joint research and investment initiatives. Our shared priority is to create a sustainable water and food system where every drop of water contributes to the future of people and nature. And we believe that the continued cooperation, knowledge exchange, and investment in climate-resilient water infrastructure will play a key role in ensuring the sustainable food systems across the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing the experience from Uzbekistan on the institutional coordination in the project design and preparation. So our next speaker will be Mr. Unan Zaborov, who shared his experience in the morning. He will continue to tell you the successful story. Please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is my second presentation. I try to be more briefly. Sorry for the first presentation again. Well, the Kyrgyz Republic with its mountainous landscape and variable weather frequently experience natural disasters. Caused by natural factors, they cost the country from 1 to up to 1.5% of GDP annually. A large segment of the population is vulnerable and has limited resources to cope with the recovery from natural disasters. This vulnerability is particularly prevalent in the water sector, including irrigated agriculture. Irrigated agriculture covering more than 1 million hectares of total land is the primary agricultural production method in the Kyrgyz Republic. A significant portion of irrigated water is lost due to inefficient transportation and use. Therefore, the country's water infrastructure needs to adapt to climate change. In 2019, ADB supported its first sector project totaling US $38.6 million to enhance the resilience of water resources to climate and natural disasters. This project is being implemented by two ministers, the Ministry of Water Resources, Agriculture and Processing Industry of the Kyrgyz Republic, and the Ministry of Emergency Situation of the Kyrgyz Republic. The total cost of the project is 38.6 million, in which 36% was allocated to the Ministry of Emergency Situation and 64% to the Water Resources Services. Intersectional cooperation. The Ministry of Emergency Situation and Water Resources Services under the Ministry of the Water Resources are the main agencies responsible for disaster risk management in the water sector. The following departments and institutes were involved in the implementation of the project. From the Ministry of Emergency Situation, National Institute for Intersectoral Civil Protection, including disaster prevention and rehabilitation in areas adjacent to major water bodies. Agency of Hydrometeorology, Kyrgyz Hydromet, under the Ministry of Emergency Situation. National Authority for Hydrometeorological Monitoring and Analysis, including forecasting and warning of extreme weather-related events. From the Water Resources Services, this is a government agency responsible for construction and maintenance of the main irrigation canals, including associated mudflow protection structures. Also involved the Voda Автоматика Metrology Design and Engineering Technological Institute. They were responsible for preparation of design, survey work of the creation of new and rehabilitation of existing irrigation facilities, experimental design development in the field of creating supervisory control data acquisition system SCADA for water management, development and improvement of methods and means for measuring water flow parameters, regulatory, technical and methodological document. Institutional governance mechanism. For outcome, first, protection and modernization of irrigation infrastructure. It was created within 5 district water management departments, it was provided discussion of the scope of work on farm canals for each sub-project, implementation of a joint management plan for off-farm irrigation system. Within this outcome, it was conducted 17 water user association, discussion of the scope of work on on-farm canal implementation of a joint management plan. Also, 4 sub-projects coordination committees, coordination and monitoring of implementation of the plan project activities, as well as for the resolution of any disputes. Within outcome 2, it was developed 5 community development groups, consultation and training for WUAs and farmers. Also developed, established 59 demonstration demo farmers. 59 demonstration sites have been created, and it was created 70 self-help groups. For the outcome number 3, improved capacity for national risk and disaster management, Department of Prevention and Elimination of Emergency Situation, participation in the development of technical specification for the procurement of heavy machinery and equipment. Kyrgyz Hydromet, discussion of the scope of work on hydro post rehabilitation and construction, participation in the development of technical specification for the procurement of instruments and equipment, discussion of issues related to development of flood early warning system. Outcomes. Cooperation between the 2 ministries has improved in terms of exchanging information on disaster risk forecasting and warning. A supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system has been implemented at water management facilities. Kyrgyz Hydromet, under the Ministry of Emergency Situation, has received automatic and manual equipment for forecasting and monitoring water resources. The equipment provides accurate and timely data, enabling early warning of farmers and water management specialists. This, in turn, facilitates the prompt adaptation of measures to prevent and mitigate the consequences of floods and other natural disasters. An early warning system for floods is being implemented along the Kugart River system. If successful, this program will be extended to other rivers that pose the greatest threat to populated areas in agricultural lands, which will ensure social protection for the rural population. An intersectoral coordination council for notifying agency about the risk of natural disaster has been created and is operating. Social integration and community engagement. Maps of vulnerable population zones and agricultural lands exposed to adverse factors have been developed. During the project's implementation, community vulnerability was analyzed, based on which awareness raising events and educational programs were conducted on potential natural disaster and climate change threats, as well as on improving agricultural skills. More than 20,000 farmers, 5,000 women have been trained in disaster resilience and climate change adaptation. Additionally, 17 self-help groups have been informed in the project for pilot areas. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Unan, for making it on time, and we appreciate your efforts for telling the story while maintaining the time within the time framework. You highlighted thank you for sharing your experience for the institutional responsibility roles and also these coordinations among them. And also you bring up the issue on the social and the community during your last slide. This brings us to our next speaker, my colleague, Miss Zuni Woods, and she will talk about this social inclusion and also gender in the G2F. And you can say that for our speakers, we have a very gender balanced speakers in our session. So this is also good time for us to discuss the social inclusion and gender issues.
Thank you very much. So just to wake everybody up a little bit, I'm gonna start by asking a pop quiz question. Two things. So how many of you think this is the UN year of the Asian farmer? How many of you think this is the year of the female farmer? 2 people. Okay, we've got to do a better job. This year is the UN year of the female farmer. I know it hasn't been mentioned, but I wanted to make sure that if you take one thing away from this session, besides what I'm going to talk about, that you take away this message that this year has been declared the International Year of the Female Farmer. Okay, so I hope you're a little bit more awake. Okay, so my name is Zoni Woods, and I am a gender specialist currently working in the CW Central West Asia section or division of the Agriculture and Natural Resources division or department. So my presentation today, as was mentioned, focuses on the gender dimensions. I will bring in social inclusion a little bit, but I will mostly focus on gender. And through my presentation, I really want to highlight why gender equality is really not an add-on overall, I think, to a large extent in a lot of ADB projects, but also central to climate resilient development, especially in glacier-fed areas where water scarcity affects men and women differently. So first, I'll go through some data on the status of women in the region in general. Then I will briefly highlight how what the gendered impact of glacial melt looks like. And then finally, I will discuss how G2F will integrate gender equality considerations. So first of all, I mean, I think to some extent this will not necessarily come as a surprise to many of you, but even with high literacy rates, gender inequalities remain persistent in the region. Women are still underrepresented in technical fields and leadership roles. Labor force participation really does vary quite widely, from over 60% in Kazakhstan to below 25% in Pakistan. Much of women's work remains informal, low paid, or completely unrecognized, particularly in agriculture and in caregiving. So these structural disparities shape how women experience climate impacts and, of course, how women in the regions affected by glacial melt experience this phenomenon. So here we see the differences also in labor force participation a bit more clearly. So women consistently earn less, so around 60% of men's income, because they're concentrated in informal and low-wage work, as I mentioned. And in agriculture, their contribution is substantial, although it's largely unrecognized. So in Pakistan, for example, women make up to 68% of agricultural workforce, and more than half in several of the neighboring countries. And we also have seen a phenomenon of the feminization of the agricultural sector due to male outmigration. Yet much of this work is unpaid and invisible, creating vulnerabilities when climate shocks occur. So women also rarely own or manage farms, even though they are central to agricultural production. So in Georgia, stands out at 15% of women-headed farms, but most countries are far lower. So you can see, for example, Pakistan is at 5%. So these low levels of land rights really limit women's access to financing, to irrigation schemes, and climate-smart agriculture technologies, which further burden the adaptation gaps that exist. In terms of political representation, we see that women's political representation remains below parity across the region. We've seen some progress in countries like Armenia and Uzbekistan, but none have achieved gender balance. And limited representation means that policies, including climate and water governance, we see water user groups being mentioned quite a lot here. But if we have this level of representation of women in decision making, we're also going to be facing major challenges in integrating women in the water user groups. So in terms of participation in water user associations, as I was mentioning, even in countries showing improvement, women are rarely in these decision-making roles. And you can see here how, we have from Uzbekistan around 22%, which has actually seen some major improvement because there were dedicated interventions from the government to improve their participation, to Pakistan, where we have very low representation of women in water user groups. Here, we just look at land ownership, which remains very, very low, 15% for women in most countries. And, the bottom line is that without land, women struggle to access things like credit, benefit from government programs, or adopt climate resilient practices. So cultural norms and discriminatory practices and inheritance systems continue to drive these gaps. So glacial melt, in short, and water scarcity is creating disproportionate burdens for women. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what that looks like. So women face compounding disadvantages when it comes to climate impacts. The impacts generally fall, I think, across 4 interconnected dimensions, although this is by far a complete picture of how women are impacted. But just as an example, sort of burden of care. So as water resources shrink, women spend more time collecting water, and this creates chronic time poverty. In a project that I'm currently working on in the Northwest Frontier Province in Pakistan, women report having to walk up to 4 hours a day to collect water. Economic security, so as I mentioned, without land or credit, women struggle to absorb climate shocks. Governance exclusion, I've mentioned that, but they really lack voice in designing responses that affect them. And then coping under stress. With male migration, women shoulder agricultural tasks without support and without rights. So these factors really do reinforce each other, deepening existing inequalities. So, oops, I turned it off. Okay. So what does an effective climate response require and look like? So first of all, it requires integrating gender equality from the start. So you've heard today throughout the presentations, Chris's presentation, Kat, and so on, how gender equality is actually being integrated right from the start of the G2F program. So water governance must include women's leadership and knowledge. I was really encouraged to hear from the presentation by the previous speaker from Kyrgyz, who talked about engaging women in water user groups, and you talked about 5,000 women being trained. So this is the kind of integration that we're looking for. We're looking for time and saving infrastructure like closer water access, directly reducing the burden and expanding women's economic opportunities. And then finally, and this is among the toughest thing, land rights and financial access are really foundational for long-term resilience. Here we've seen some progress in terms of ADB projects requiring joint land titling or registration to provide women with more access to and rights to land. And again, early warning systems need to be accessible to women, considering their mobility constraints and communication channels that they trust. So the key point here is that gender equality is a prerequisite for resilience, not an optional extra. So climate vulnerable communities cannot adapt effectively if half of the population lacks rights, voice, and resources. And closing the gender gaps will actually strengthen both household, community, and national resilience. So, why gender matters in G2F? So G2F recognizes that women, youth, indigenous peoples, and vulnerable groups are disproportionately affected by climate impacts from the outset. Gender equality is really embedded as a core principle, shaping leadership, innovation, and community-level action. And what we're trying to avoid is that when climate shocks happen, that they do not widen existing gender inequalities. So what does it look like in terms of gender mainstreaming? So in line with how ADB integrates gender and mainstreaming gender equality in all of our projects, G2F also requires gender mainstreaming across the project cycle with 5 very clear steps. The first one is conducting a gender analysis. The second one is looking how that gender analysis can actually inform inclusive design. Then looking at how we can prepare budgeted interventions and designs that can be included in a gender action plan. Integrating gender into the design and monitoring and framework and the monitoring and evaluation frameworks. And finally, looking at how we can report regularly and transparently. So this will ensure participation, benefit sharing, and accountability throughout implementation. So what is unique about what we're trying to do is that every component in G2F includes gender equality designs and also will include measurements. So we've heard in the early warning systems, and watershed restoration, and climate smart agriculture, social protection and health, and climate finance. So these all have components that take into consideration gender equality. So I think in many ways, as a gender specialist, I see that this breadth and scope of how gender is being looked at in G2F is quite transformative. So just to finish off, I think what we see is that across glacier-fed regions, women face heavier climate burdens, but they can also bring critical solutions through local knowledge and adaptive practices. And what women need is actually intentional support that recognizes both the challenges as well as their role as agents of change. And G2F, by including gender, by supporting transformative gender action, can deliver projects that will benefit all. I have run out of time, but I think that to answer to DG Leah's challenge to us earlier on, today's discussions has really sort of focused on what some projects are doing, what we could be doing, and I hope that with this presentation, it also sort of brings to light some of the things and why, more importantly, we need to focus on gender equality as we're working on G2F. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Juni, for your reminding us of the International Year for the Female Farmers. So we we should remember, we should extend this message to others. Yeah. And of course, Juni also have elaborated on what are the gender entry point for designing, preparing our G2F projects. So look forward to the future collaboration between our gender team, climate change team, and also ADB's project teams. So as we discussed so far, all about public institutions, as we discussed, I mean, we heard that public institution, we need to go beyond public institution. We need to bring in the private sector participation in the G2F. So the next speaker will be our private sector group, the colleague, Ms. Aina Babilova. Please come in. She is our senior investment specialist in the private sector group.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aina Babilova. I'm a senior investment specialist in the private sector operations department at ADB, working on agribusiness investments across Central and West Asia. Today, I will briefly discuss how private capital can be mobilized to support the Glaciers to Farms initiatives and share a few examples of how ADB works with private companies across the food value chain to strengthen climate resilience. We have already heard today about the institutional and policy frameworks required to manage climate risks across water, agriculture, and rural systems. My intervention focuses on the investment side of this equation, how these strategies are translated into real projects financed by the private sector. Climate change affects the entire food system value chain, from glaciers and water resources, which sustain irrigation and ecosystems, to farms where crops are grown, to processing, distribution, and retail systems that bring food to consumers. This interconnected system is exactly what the Glaciers to Farms approach seeks to address. However, building resilience across this entire chain requires significant investment. These investments include climate-resilient agricultural practices, nature-based solutions, food processing and logistics infrastructure, and resilient retail and supply chain systems. The scale of these investments is substantial. Public financing alone cannot meet this challenge. This is why mobilizing private capital is essential for scaling climate-resilient food systems. At ADB, we support private sector investments in food systems through three main mechanisms. First, innovative financing instruments for private companies. This includes sustainability-linked loans, green loans, and hard and local currency financing, which help companies integrate climate and sustainability objectives into their business models. Second, risk sharing and blended finance. Through concessional funding and co-financing, ADB works with commercial banks, institutional investors, and climate funds to mobilize additional capital alongside our own investments. And third is capacity building. Technical assistance programs support farmers, suppliers, and SMEs in adopting climate-resilient practices and improving productivity and sustainability. Together, these tools allow multilateral development banks like ADB to play a catalytic role in crowding in private investment for climate-resilient food systems. Let me briefly illustrate this through three examples. The first example is Indorama's climate-resilient farmer livelihood project in Uzbekistan. ADB provided a $15 million in financing through a sustainability-linked loan. This instrument links financing terms to specific sustainability targets. Key performance indicators include farmer extension services for 1,200 farmers, better cotton initiative certification for those farmers, and integrated pest management. Like 30% of farmers of Indorama had to increase the use of beneficial insects and pheromone traps, for example. This result is stronger. The result is stronger climate-resilient agriculture, including improved water and soil management in glacier-dependent agricultural regions. This illustrates how corporate financing can directly support climate adaptation at the farm level. The second example, it's not in the Central and West Asia, but I wanted to show it. It's an example from Indonesia. I wanted to show it as a potential project that could be replicated in Central and West Asia to address the challenge. So this example is a climate-resilient agroforestry project supported through a sustainability-linked loan combined with technical assistance. ADB provided 15 million in financing in 2022 to expand sustainable timber processing in this case. The sustainability targets include Forest Stewardship Council certification support for 550 farmers, Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil certification targets, like 100% of this company's land and palm oil mills had to receive this certification, farm extension services on climate-resilient agriculture, and water conservation targets at processing facilities. In addition to financing, technical assistance from ADB supports farmers with training and financial literacy programs, and that extended to 739 farmers. This project supports around 400 farmers in total and promotes climate-resilient agroforestry systems. It also contributes to biodiversity protection, improved soil health, and better water management. This example highlights how combining financing with capacity building can strengthen climate resilience across rural landscapes. The third example illustrates the role of food distribution and retail systems in food security. ADB provided 12 million loan in local currency financing to Korzinka, a leading food retailer in Uzbekistan. Their objective is to strengthen food supply chains and distribution networks. The investment supported improved cold chain systems, more reliable food distribution, stronger sourcing from domestic farmers, and faster payments to suppliers and producers. The overall outcome is more resilient farm-to-market supply chains, helping to ensure reliable food availability and supporting national food security. This example shows that food systems resilience depends not only on farms, but also on efficient logistics and retail networks. Let me conclude with a few key messages. First, climate change is reshaping glacier-dependent food systems across many regions. Second, building resilience requires investment across the entire food value chain, from farms to markets. Third, public finance alone cannot meet this challenge. Fourth, multilateral development banks can play a catalytic role in mobilizing private capital. And finally, strong partnerships between governments, multilateral development banks, and private companies are essential to scale the glacier-to-farms approach and strengthen food system resilience. Ultimately, building climate-resilient food systems requires connecting water systems, agriculture, and markets. And by connecting glaciers to farms and farms to markets, we can build more resilient, sustainable food systems across the region. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ella, thank you very much for your sharing of the 3 project examples. This demonstrates that how this can help the private sector contribute to the G2F. Maybe in some cases, countries, we can have one ADB, one project have a public investment component as well as a private sector component, which of course it's not easy, but then we can think in that way. And then our next speakers will be from online, from Azerbaijan. I don't know whether they are already connected or.
Hello. Yes, we are connected.
Yeah. So yeah, we have Miss Leia, who is the deputy chair. Leila, yeah, who is the deputy chair of the Agro-Credit and Development Agency, Ministry of Agriculture, Azerbaijan. We also have another speaker, Mr. Sukai. Oh, God, Sukai. Sorry to not. And head of the AI project, Ministry of Culture. They will share experience of their digital agriculture digitalization and also the AI work in Azerbaijan and its relevance to the G2F. Yeah, Leila, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Today, together with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Surhay Novruzov, we will present Azerbaijan's experience in building a scalable, integrated government-to-farm ecosystem where digitalization and artificial intelligence are not standalone tools, but strategic enablers of structural transformation. However, I cannot see currently my presentation. Can you share, please, my presentation? Thank you very much. Can I see a slide about Azerbaijan? Sorry, can you please show the second slide? Thank you. So allow me to begin with a brief introduction by sharing interesting facts about Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan is uniquely positioned at the crossroads of Europe and Asia with diverse agroclimatic conditions and deep-rooted agricultural traditions. At the same time, as a historically energy-producing country, we have made a deliberate strategic choice to diversify our economy and invest in future-oriented sectors, including agriculture. Today, digital public services are deeply embedded in our institutional architecture. This has allowed us not simply to digitalize agriculture, but to reimagine how the state interacts with farmers, particularly women and youth. Next slide, please. Such transformation is never achieved alone. It requires visionary partnerships. And here I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Asian Development Bank. Currently, we work on several projects. Particularly, I would like to mention our project, which is a regional technical project, which is focused on digitalization and AI, is a strong example for this partnership. Through this initiative, we are enhancing our artificial intelligence capabilities among farmers, particularly women and youth, because gender equality is high priority for us and other stakeholders. Refining our digital agricultural systems and importantly contributing a shared regional knowledge base. From the earliest stage of this cooperation, Azerbaijan has taken a clear and principled position. We are open to collaboration, open to sharing our experience and methodologies, and equally committed to learning from others, because we believe that innovation in agriculture must be collected, not isolated. Next slide, please. So this slide reflects a deeper institutional reform. What you see here is not a set of platforms, it is the architecture of new governance models. Since 2018, our focus has been to move away from fragmented silo-based service delivery toward a fully integrated agricultural ecosystem. This required institutional coordination, data integration, and policy alignment. Our objective has been to create a system where Data informs policy, policy drives services, and services deliver impact at the farm level. Next slide, please. We Azerbaijanis are very proud that our country is a highly digitalized, where digital transformation is a national priority, with most public services delivered through e-government, e-gov platform. This has enabled us to effectively develop e-agro. E-agro serves as the core digital platform of the agricultural system, enabling efficient service delivery, strengthening transparency, and data integration. Also supporting informed decision-making for both farmers and policymakers. Next slide, please. With e-agro 2.0, we are entering the next phase, the phase of intelligent governance. Here we leverage artificial intelligence to anticipate risks, to optimize resource use, and support decision-making in real time. After the end of my presentation, my esteemed colleague, Mr. Surhay Novruzov, will present you detailed information about our ongoing AI application. Next slide, please. A resilient agriculture system must ensure not only production, but also efficient market integration. Tapagro addresses this by creating a transparent and accessible digital marketplace. Its broader significance lies in reducing market asymmetries, improving price transparency, and strengthening value chains. In a sense, it empowers farmers not only as producers, but as market participants. This platform particularly is very helpful for our farmers who live in remote mountainous areas. Next slide, please. Digital transformation must ultimately serve the farmer. Yonca is designed as a farmer-centric interface, ensuring that all services, information, and opportunities are accessible in a simple and user-friendly manner. More importantly, it established a continuous feedback loop, allowing farmers not only to receive services, but also to engage directly with the ministry. This is a critical component of responsive governance. Next slide, please. Effective policy requires reliable data. The farm data management system enables us to collect structured farm-level data, analyze production and cost dynamics, and design targeted interventions. We are working closely with international experts as well as with the local experts of the Agrarian Research Center to enhance farmer scoring methodologies and continuously upgrade the farm data management system as a strategic evolving backbone of evidence-based decision-making. Next slide, please. Through the Tadarik platform, which means procurement in Azerbaijani language, the state assumes an additional role, that of a strategic and stabilizing market actor. By centralizing public procurement, we ensure predictable demand, support domestic producers, and enhance food system resilience. Through this system, particularly my colleagues are focused on supporting small and mid-sized farmers' production. This is particularly important in times of global uncertainty. Next slide, please. We are proud that in 2024, Azerbaijan has hosted COP29, during which the Minister of Agriculture, together with the COP29 presidency and FAO, launched the Baku Harmonia Climate Initiative for Farmers. I would particularly highlight for the first time, this agricultural initiative was focused on farmers. It was a very farmer-centered initiative. It is a centered initiative which invites all involved stakeholders to cooperate and create synergy to promote climate resilient practices and support farmers, particularly women and youth. Since then, we have been developing a farmer scoring system to identify and support green farmers while encouraging a broader transition to sustainable agriculture. Considering the time constraints, I will go through these slides as my colleagues, Mr. Surhay Novruzov, will provide a more detailed explanation of these tools in his presentation. Next slide, please. Next slide. Surhay will talk about this. Thank you very much. Access to finance is essential for transformation. Our centralized credit system integrates financial services into digital ecosystem, ensuring accessibility, transparency, and efficiency. In order to reduce barriers between the Agrocredit and Development Agency, which is state agency, which provides state financing tools for farmers, and farmers, we are working on development of these tools. It will expand opportunities, particularly for smaller farmers. Next slide, please. All these components are part of a broader national vision. Digitalization and artificial intelligence are not ends in themselves. They are instruments to enhance productivity, reduce vulnerability, and generate sustainable economic value. Our ambition is to build a system that is not only efficient, but also resilient and future-ready. Next slide, please. Considering time constraints, I try to be very quick and leave more time for my esteemed colleague, Mr. Novruzov. However, once again, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Asian Development Bank for its continued support and partnership. As I mentioned previously, we remain fully open to collaboration, joint initiatives, and knowledge exchange. We will share our presentations. If you have interest in these topics, we will be happy always to share our experience with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Good afternoon to all. Thanks, Leila. Thanks for giving a good introduction. And today I will briefly try to talk about how our so-called project calls AI in agriculture. So AI is a new terminology. What we do? We bring like a more mathematical and a data science approach to the agriculture. Can we share the presentation, please? Yeah. So the project started, as Leila told already, we started in 2018 with so-called e-agro application for the farmers. So we gathered a lot of information, so we call it big data. The big data actually brought another pillar to us, or like milestone to us, to do digitalization, digital transformation on this data. Why? The first task for us, like in the government, in case of the government, to monitor all the declaration, all the farmers declared what they planted. So it's a subsidy process, simple process. But we are talking about the approximately annually 1 million parcels needed to be monitored by the Ministry of Agriculture. So the first step and the first actually driving tool was that. So it actually requires from us to build a kind of a pipeline, digital pipeline, could include everything from A to Z, from the growing or the sowing a seed to the monitoring of the yield. So all those systems include in our project, and we have some use case. I will shortly. Please go to the next slide, and we can skip it because we have the short time. Yeah, like all those program and use case and the some other cases here you see here. It's like a quite general approach, and you can see how like holistic approach we made to the agricultural production process. So the programs are including farmer scoring, which Leila already mentioned, crop variety, crop health, crop yield forecast, crop verification, field consolidation, irrigation, soil map, and animal husbandry. So they have there are use cases including in this program, and we will try to touch some main of them shortly. Let's go to the next slide, please. We can skip it. Yeah. So the main thing if you're conducting AI project is the data. So data is like there are some fundamentals of the data we need to we need to bring to our platform. So the main source of the data is the satellite and the climate station and the soil, or the climate and soil. So for satellite, we use the three different directions. The one is like a high resolution photos, or the orthophoto, which we call it. We get from the satellites 3 times in a month, and it makes approximately 35 times in a year. So which means like 1 meter resolution for different specters of the image, which is like it includes also RGB, NDVI, NDWI, in the moisture index, and etc. We use the satellite to build a base map of the country. Not the satellite, sorry, we use the designated kind of airplane for the building the orthophoto of the country, which we are using as the base map of our solutions. So the resolution here, in this case, it's a 15 centimeter per square meter on the Earth. Another tool is like we built 185 climate stations in the country, which means like we are gathering all the agri-environmental conditions all around the country, gathering in our ministry server. And then we are also building a special agri-forecast system, so agri-climate forecast system, which is like let's consider that the temperature we feel is not the same for the plants, or the plants feels that, let's say, so-called feels the temperature, it's not the same for the human. So we build a particular the system for agriculture to gather historical data and to give the forecast to the farmers, and to, of course, to feed our models. So another one is like soil data. We gathered more than 100,000 soil analysis. So we built a map of the country, soil map of the country, including electric conductivity, pH, and organic matter. So based on this, we are also able to predict the amount of the nitrogen available in the soil, and the phosphorus and other NPK like K and other microelements. So all these three elements, I would say 4 elements, are the main pillars of our models as a data. So if we go to the next slide, please, I can, yeah, this is like a climate station, how it looks on the map. So you can see all those climate stations are locating on the main agricultural area of the country. So including gathering all the data from the farmlands. I have to mention that it could be maybe a good experience for other countries to think about. So the Ministry of Agriculture only installed 30 climate stations around the country. The rest of the climate station, which is like 185, is coming from the open data sources. The climate stations already installed by farmers there in their farmlands, and from the airports, from the other hydrometeorological stations we are gathering. So please, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, the farmer scoring, let's go to the other one. Let's go. Next one, please. Yeah, the next one. Next one, please. Yeah. So the previous one, please. Yeah, this one, the dashboard you see on the screen is like, you see the farmer scoring system in Azerbaijani. So we have more than 300,000 farmers in the system. So we can technically see their annual or quarter-based activities in our system. So we have more than 110 criteria to evaluate the farmers. All these data for these criteria gathering from the online platforms, which already mentioned by Leila, from ECDIS, from the Tapagro, from other system. So based on these data, based on these criteria, we are building the scoring system for the farmers. Where we use this data, we use this data for the government policy, for the financing of the agricultural projects through the banks, and for other suppliers like input providers or others. So here on the dashboard, you can see that like the farmer score is like 47 out of 100, which is like, I would say, mid-level farmers. So we can see here how sustainable they are acting, how economically feasible he is or she is acting, and how modernly the farmer is acting. So here you can see if they use the modern irrigation system, if they use a soil analysis, leaf analysis, voluntary insurance system. etc. So all these 110 criteria are gathering in this dashboard, on this dashboard. Next one, please. Yeah, next one. Yeah, the crop variety map, if we go to the next page, we can see also dashboard there. So the crop variety map is very, very important for the country. Why? It's because of the subsidy program of the government. So, and actual investment. So annual increase of the orchards and the high value crops in the country is about the 15,000 hectares per year, which makes a quite big export for the country agricultural economy. So the farmers, we are helping the farmers to test the variety they want to plant before then they actually during the investment planning. So if they want to bring a particular variety to the country, they don't need to gather the climate data, they don't need to go to the field to test it, or they don't know to do anything like manually. Everything can be done with this platform. If we go to the next slide, you can see. Yeah, next slide, please. So as you see here, if the farmer choose to particular variety of the apple, peach, nectarine, cherry, they can see what kind of risk they can face if they plant in particular location inside of the country. So it can be something related to the climate, like climatic risk, including the frost or like pollination or other factors that can affect the production process. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, next. Yeah, the yield monitoring system or yield prediction system is crucial for the food safety and planning of the season in the country. Currently, it works for two um, main plants, wheat and barley. So based on the two different models we use, it includes agronomic model and the remote sensing model, we can predict the yield per hectare. We also use the embedding machine learning mechanisms model here. We train our model based on available, precise available data in the country. How we get this data, by the way, we installed the sensor 3 years ago to our harvester machines combines, and they measure the yield per square meter in the country. And based on this data, which is like it covers around 20,000 hectares in the country. So based on this data, we train our model. So the model now works effectively to predict any yield, any parcels in the country. Let's go to the next.
Sukai, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Can you please wrap up in 2 minutes times because we have
Yeah.
next. Yes.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to. Yeah.
No, it's fine. It's fine. If we go, I mean, if I summarize all the use cases we are planning to do, it could be also including I already heard from other colleagues today's talks, the disease and the pest modeling in the country. So we can predict 18 different type of the disease and pest inside of the country for any location in the country. So since we know from e-agro system particular farmers growing what in which location. So we can send that message to the farmers before a pest or disease arrive to the parcel. We have also the models works for the pasture management. So it's environmentally very important case. We are actually the government, they're renting out the pasture areas um, um, to the farmers. So before giving to the farmers, we can actually see that how effective this pasture is and how many animal can graze in this particular size of in these borders. Other use cases I can talk, but we don't have that much time. So if you have any question, please go ahead to ask here or later on send us an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila and Sukai. And thank you for sharing the Azerbaijan experience in agriculture digitization. And we are impressed by your work so far. And also thank you for your willingness to collaborate with our developing member countries in the region. We look forward to the opportunity to work with you further on this. Now, I think that this brings us to the close of this session. I'm sorry to borrow, I need to borrow you another 3 minutes for the close this session. As we already discussed, I mean, we need to, where we need to address climate change, intensify climate change risks, we need to work together. And for this session, and we also highlighted that crucial truth that G2F succeeds only when institutions, cross sectors and cross borders work in concert. We have heard today that managing glaciers north water variability food system is not a technical challenge alone, it's an institutional and governance challenge. It is about how we coordinate decisions, align incentives, share data, and mobilize financial across a complex landscape of ministries, agencies, and development partners. I prepared 3 key takeaways for us to think about. And first of all is the cross-sector coordination can work well when supported by the right institution mechanism, mandates, and leadership. Regional cooperation and knowledge platform can accelerate learning, reduce duplication, and build trust, especially for transparency risks that no single institution can resolve alone. The second point I'd like to for you to take away is social inclusion, gender equity, and private capital are not just peripheral elements or add-ons. They are essential for sustaining G2F over time and scaling it across diverse contexts. Digital technology and AI are powerful tools to support food system resilience and G2F program implementation in the. I also have they follow the code on the opening of the our DG. I just want to also highlight 3 aspects here to core joint actions. That is, champion cross-sector collaboration with your own institutions. And the second is invest in institutional systems, invest in data governance, partnership that makes long-term resilience possible. Lastly, but not least, continue building the community of practice and knowledge sharing platform, strengthen the regional architecture that allows us to learn from each other and move forward together. Once again, I'd like to express my appreciation to the speakers who shared their experience, and also appreciate your participation from the morning to this last session. Look forward to continuing this journey with all of you. Let's work together, join hands together to deliver the G2F programs together at the ground. So that's the end of the official session of this one. Before I close, this is the important one. This is a sign to this evening's cocktail is in the heaven, because heaven, maybe you don't know for outside where heaven is. It's just ABD's cafeteria, above the ADB's cafeteria. I think this sign, this sign will guide you to the heaven. Yeah, that way, yes. Yeah, we will start at 6 o'clock. Yeah, see you then. Oh, yeah, we have a group photo of speakers or everyone? Speakers, okay. Yeah, okay, nice. Please have, for speakers, please here be here, and then we took photos, group photos. I don't know whether our Azerbaijan colleagues, Leia, are you still online? Otherwise, we can. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
we are here.
Yeah, that's great. We also have you, you two on the screen, so we can have a photo together. Thanks. Thank you, Yakut. Thank you, Leia. Thank you, Sukai. Look forward to see you in Azerbaijan.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye bye. Hope you can join us for the cocktail, but unfortunately, you can just only join online.
Next time, hopefully.
Next time.